All right, what's up, boys and girls? We are back with another SoulCast. And this time, I'm actually pretty excited for this episode because one of my favorite characters in the game, the Ninja Man himself, Yoshimitsu, he's a perennial just character, I guess. Namco loves to throw him in wherever they can, so should be fun times talking about this character. So with that, brought on two guests for everyone to kind of double up on the knowledge, make sure you get your fill. So with that, I'll introduce my first guest, MKL. What's going on, man?
Oh, not too much. How we doing?
Not too bad. Okay, so real quick, what does it stand for? What does MKL stand for?
Actually, it stands for Mr. Clue, but 8-Way Run has this strange, nickname feature when you're signing up, and I didn't really understand it, so I put in Mr. Clue, and then for my nickname, I just mashed the first three letters, and they came out wrong, so it became MKL. So
Oh, all right. So we got a username from a typo.
exactly, and I just decided it meant Martin King Luther Vandross. I needed to add the V on there.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I remember the couple tournaments I've seen you at. That's how you were on there. I think. I don't think you were on there for KL. It was on there as Martin King.
Yeah, and then this little white boy walks up with that name, and everyone, they don't look right.
Hey, you do what you can with what you got.
For real.
That's how it is. So with now that we have established your name, give us a little bit of a background, like when did you start playing, how long you've been playing Caliber, and how you ultimately ended with Yoshi.
I started playing fighting games because my little diner next door to my house had a Tekken 1 arcade cabinet. And
Wow.
I really, really just was gravitating towards that game because it was the only good game in the place. So I get all my friends to go play with me. They actually upgraded to Tekken 2 shortly after that. So that completely started me on the 3D fighter.
Oh yeah, Tekken 2, mad hype.
Yeah. That was Tekken 2 was the first game I ever made Yoshimitsu in, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, and then for a while there I was getting on this program called Z Battle where you could play SNES games online. This was in 2000, and I was playing Super Turbo with a really well-known Super Turbo player by the name of DGV, and me and him just sparred all the time, and I learned every bit of spacing. All of my fundamentals come from those sessions. And then shortly after that, I got a Dreamcast, bought Caliber 1 because I read so many good reviews about it. And since then, I've been playing the series pretty regularly.
Nice. So so just Yoshimitsu is just kind of tried and true for you then, huh? You just started with
No, actually, 5 is the first one I've ever mained in Soul Calibur, at least. I used to main, it's changed for almost every game, actually. In the first 2, I mained Cervantes. And in 3, I mained Nightmare. In 4, I mained Nightmare for almost the entire game and then tried to main Yoshi at the end of it.
Gotcha. So you just weren't feeling the Cervantes, huh?
Yeah, it figures that the fucking game that he is the best in, I don't main him.
That's usually how it goes. It's like, oh, this character's good now. I don't want to play him anymore.
And that's almost the case with Yoshimitsu. He was so good in 4, and now 5, he's kind of
Funny. All right. Well, excellent little background check there. So I suppose we should introduce our third party to this conversation. So Ring Out, what's going on, man?
How's it going today, guys?
Not too bad. So yeah, same spiel. What got you into fighting games? How did you get on the Caliber? And then ultimately, what brought you to Yoshi?
Well, kind of along the same boat here as MKO. I kind of played back then when Tekken 2 was around, and one of the main reasons that I always picked up Yoshi was just honestly he had a sword. Simple as that. and when you're younger, you always think things like these are just kind of things you make them think that they're stronger or whatever. Ever since the time, I never really played the game, in a competitive level. I kind of just played it casually with my brother growing up, and he was someone I always stuck with. Same thing as you said before, Dreamcast came out, and I heard a ton of reviews about that game when it came out as well. And I noticed that when Yoshimitsu was from Soul Calibur, it totally just, immediately I was like, I have to play this guy. The only character that Namco decides to transfer from Tekken is in Soul Calibur as well, and I was just like, you know what, this is my call. I'm gonna stick with this character.
Nice. Yeah, I have to admit that I don't know how much you guys play or have played Tekken, but I far more enjoy playing him in Calibur than I ever have in Tekken.
Yeah.
Like there's too much situational garbage going on in Tekken but you can just kind of free flow it with him in Calibur, which is really fun.
Yeah, definitely.
So with that, I guess we can just kind of jump into the actual character discussion here. So where I want to start, and I'll actually throw this at you, MKL. So Yoshi, like you say, he's kind of Mei, which of course we'll get into.
Yeah.
But he does good, just like any character, he has good things and bad things. So of the good things that he does, what's like the main area of focus? Like, what do you think he does best?
He is confusing, and he just can mix people up for free, usually because they don't know his frame data, they don't know his moves. He has the most moves in the game, so you can get really gimmicky with him sometimes. And he just has a bunch of, he has so many tech crouches, tech jumps. He has one of the quickest counter hit combo starters in the game with Dick Punch. He's really good at just barraging the character that he's facing with attacks.
Nice. So you're definitely an advocate of the like the Pitbull style.
I try to play him a little not Pitbull, and it doesn't work out too well in this game. But the reason I wanted Ring Out to be on with me is because we play so drastically different, and you could get two versions of Yoshi. I play him very, I don't want to say low risk, but I don't use a lot of his higher level stuff all the time because you can drop it really easy, and he uses a lot of that stuff. I try him to play with as little risk as I can possibly get away with, I guess.
Okay, well then let me throw that over to you, Ring Out. He just said he a lot of the confusion that can come with him is his strongest point. So how do you see that? Like, do you agree, or how? Where do you see like his big strength as a character?
Well, as a character, the thing about him, like you said, yeah, he is a mix-up character. And compared to any other person in the Soul Calibur series, I feel like he has some of the best mix-ups where, honestly, they come down to like straight up 50-50s. And the thing above that, aside from that, is the fact that you can play Yoshimitsu in so many ways that, like, I mean, it never ceases to surprise me every time I play one, like online or offline. Every single person I've ever met who plays Yoshimitsu usually has their own type of style, and I think because of that, that's the reason why the character becomes, a true mix-up character. Like various times, like I'll play, I'll have casual matches with, I've played with Lolo, MKL, and they have both had very different play styles and how they play Yoshi, and it gets to the point that even someone like like us, even if we know the character that well, we still find ourselves getting caught up in the same mix-ups that we've done time and time again.
Nice. Well, then let's start then with like the more aggressive discussion with Yoshi. So MKL sounds like he likes to use a little bit of a safer approach. But I mean, both of you have already mentioned he can be really confusing, and as you just said, Ring Out, he has some of the best 50-50s in the game. So as a starting point to let's say that we're to the person who's trying to pick up Yoshi, when you're trying to get in, and you're in, and you have to make a decision on what to do next, I guess like just walk us through a couple of examples of those 50-50s and what you're talking about.
All right. So one of Yoshimitsu's favorite or famous moves, or two of them, would be IMCF, or people call it Dick Punch, I guess, in the community. That's a big
showstopper.
Yeah, exactly. To my understanding, I believe it's honestly one of the fastest moves in the game. That's not from a stance transition per se. So it's like you can literally just dish it out, and I believe it's one of the fastest moves that come out. Because of that, when you're actually in there, it gives people such, they have to be they have to be wary of that, and to the point that they have to either respect it or get punished for it. So that's one of the main moves. Once you hit them with that, it gives you a variety of options and opportunities that basically lead to knockdown and while rising like mix-ups, where it's either when they get up, they either have to watch out for which follows up, could be either a low or a mid. Which leads me to Yoshimitsu's second famous move that everybody just cannot stand, which is his full crouch 3K. It's basically a low sleep. It's stupid, and yeah, it's just a stupid move. I abuse the crap out of it for no reason ever. Like you just mix it up with mids. I mean, the fact that it knocks them down, you can't ukemi it, and it leaves them back turned. They just either have to take a hit or get up immediately, and it puts them in a situation where like nobody ever wants to be in. That's one of the 50-50 mix-ups. For example, you can knock somebody down. You can basically recovery crouch cancel and 3B them, and after that they can either tech roll, which you can hit them again with a 3B, or they can get up and guard, which then leads up to the next mix-up. What are you going to do next? Trip them again, grab them, poke them with a mid while they're crouching, and like that's, for example, some of the things you do.
Gotcha. Well, I actually I have. Man, my mind's like racing. I got like 10 different follow-up questions. Okay, so first I want to start with the Mangi fist, because that move, I know it's huge. Well, I've heard a lot of people say throughout the lifespan of this game thus far, whenever they're talking about Yoshi, it's can you or can you not do that move? Like if you can do that move, then your Yoshi has a chance. Like you are able to run a game. So let me start that, because it's a very difficult move to do, even though the input, like down AB, is pretty straightforward, but it's a just frame. So for those who are having trouble with that, because I mean you're going to have to get that down, you're going to have to master that. What kind of advice do you have for the timing of that to actually execute?
First of all, I'm glad that the timing on it is a lot more lenient in 5, because back then when I did play 4, I honestly didn't learn it until the game honestly just started dying down and 5 was announced. But the thing about the move is like the timing for it, you kind of what I try to explain to a lot of people is trying to find a rhythm for it is it's a little bit difficult to explain. You kind of have to do it in a quick motion, and the way I try to explain it to people is you always have to slide your thumb across A to B. And like a quick transition. A lot of advice I give to people is, and this helps out a lot of people surprisingly, is what I offer is to them, when you try to input it, try tapping, for example, 8, then 2AB. And the reason I say that is because for some reason the move tends to come out a little bit better that way. And some people who don't understand or aren't able to get the timing right for it find themselves having a little bit more luck doing it that way until they actually finally recognize, if this is the timing and how fast I have to dish out the command for it to come out. It's a really odd idea, but I usually dish that out to people, and it does help them out a lot.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know when the game first came out, I played Astaroth for like a couple days before I realized that his playstyle in this game just didn't fit me, and then I switched to Yoshi. And I'm typically a pad player, just from the Tekken days, and I still play Tekken pad. But I noticed that doing that move was way easier on a stick, and Caliber happens to be one of those games where movement is far more fluid, so I don't need to like wave dash and stuff, so I can play Caliber on a stick. Now, do you? I take it, just from the way you described it, you're a pad player, of course. But do you ever run into like people who are having trouble with it on a stick? Or
I hate sticks, like arcade sticks.
Yeah.
I tried at Evo last year, and I could never get it to come out. So I have no honest experience on actually successfully getting it out there. I mean, I'm one of the weirder pad players out there per se. Anyways, I use an Xbox controller, and personally, I think it's one of the best controls that actually uses Just Frame series. But I have no experience with an arcade stick with it. I could never get it out. I know that
it's much easier on stick.
That's what I hear, but every time I tried, it just never worked. Sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, for whatever reason, and this could just be me, but when I try to do it on a pad, I feel like I don't know if it's like the button sensitivity, because you have the pressure. I don't know what you want to call it, the pressure sensors or whatever, in like a PS3 controller. So it's there's some games that utilize that where the harder you press the button, it does different things. But a stick doesn't have that. So it's just boom, boom. Like I don't know, like doing like a keyboard sort of on a stick is a lot easier. It's hard to explain, but
I kind of get what you're saying. That's actually the reason why I decided to the dual mod in an Xbox controller was because something about, I guess it's the weight and the feel of a PS3 controller using it, like it just never felt right, and sometimes I would have a button, miss input or something. So when I dual modded an Xbox controller, like I like the D-pad. It works great, and like the extra weight on it, and like when you actually input the command on it, it feels like you can actually feel the buttons. You can actually feel yourself actually hitting the controllers, and I feel that sometimes reminds me of an arcade stick in terms of how you feel it. And it gives you that kind of muscle memory where this is how you have to dish it out to actually have it come out properly.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was always a fan of. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but there are some people who have their controllers like spliced, so like you have the D-pad on one side, but then you have a little thing that has arcade buttons.
Yeah,
right? Those things are awesome. I was considering doing that, like almost specifically for Yoshi. I was like, oh man, that would help so much. But anyway, so that's another topic for another time. So okay, so we're talking the Mangi Fist. So it's just sounds like it's just practice, just find a rhythm, and then once you do, you just kind of have to stick on it. Now, do you guys have like any? What's the best way to ask this question? Like in clutch situations or execution can always go out on you. But do you find that that move is one of those things where it can drastically affect like the outcome of a match if you're a little off or you get pressured?
Not particularly, since usually you'll get 2A if you screw up, and that's like not the worst thing in the world usually. But it can definitely change the outcome of a match, but not as bad as like some other just frames, like Cervantes. If he messes up IGDR, he's getting ruined.
Yeah,
sure. Gotcha.
Yeah, basically, because like most cases when you do that, like I said, 2A comes out, and I mean it's a 13 frame move. It's safe. I mean, there's nothing really bad about it. But I mean, like you said before, in clutch situations, like IMCF leads to tons of damage and like ring out potential. But I mean, it's not like you're gonna pay unless that was the one moment you needed for it to actually that it's gonna cost you the match.
Yeah, the follow-ups to IMCF are the things that people usually drop, like in clutch situations.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I was actually going to ask about that because I know, like, for me, man, I'm a hardcore cheeseball, so if I can be lazy with my inputs, I'm going to. So I usually do the the Brave Edge version of it.
Yeah,
was it 6B and then Brave Edge?
6B Brave Edge.
So it's like, oh hey, really really easy. I'll spend some bar for that. But so the follow up after it, what is it? 668 plus B? Is that what it is? Or
you can do that, but most people will recover their crouch with forward and then launch them with 3B. It has a super tight timing to do that, but that's the most used follow up in high level play for him.
Yeah, pretty much. The reason for that is because it's kind of like in 4 as well. I'm pretty sure you remember. You can actually just uppercut him, which is the 3B. And it's basically a pretty good launcher that leads to, a ton of opportunities in terms of how you actually want to dish out damage. And the timing's strict for it. It takes timing to actually learn how to recover from your crouching stance quicker. Mm-hmm. But in most cases, when people are learning Yoshimitsu, people usually do use 6-6B. And I mean, that still gives out good damage because, that after door knocker, then 3B gives a decent amount.
Interesting. So the so Mangi Fist and the third. God, I had a question about 3B, but I can't remember what it was. Oh well. So I did want to backtrack a little bit because you had mentioned we kind of got into the Mangi Fist discussion, but just like knockdowns in general. You're talking about the 50-50s and especially full crouch 3K because that just getting knocked down in general is really annoying. As a defender, but you mentioned it puts him in that or your opponent in that kind of crappy situation. Now, I did want to ask just about Oki in general because it seems like he's most, if not all, of his knockdowns give him like a good good situation like that, where you're in that 50-50 mix-up again. So, like, how is it usually just abusing stuff like 3K, or are there other ways that you're getting your knockdown? Like maybe taking a little bit more risk with something like, I don't know, 9K or something like that?
You can go
That's
ahead.
not really that risky. 9K. That's only like -12 on guard.
Yeah. Like most of Yoshi's moves that do knock people down are either from stance transitions or Mangi card fist. And the thing about the full crouch 3K, the reason it's preferred by most people who use it is because of like just how much range it has, and just in terms of how much better Oki it actually leaves you in compared to other moves. Whereas, say for example, you hit somebody with 9K, you can't really do much after that unless there's a wall. Then you can just follow it with a combo. Whereas with full crouch 3K, if you knock them down, you can actually get up, or you even just 2K them after that, and it's guaranteed. And then after that, they either have to get up and guard immediately because of the fact that their back's turned, or they can try to tech roll. I do believe you can. I do believe you can ukemi after you get hit by the 3B though if you do that. So it all depends on how you want to handle that situation.
Gotcha. So based on that description, it sounds like it's sort of his options change a little bit depending on which knockdown you get, but at the same time, he still has like good follow-ups. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about then. You just mentioned like the juggle follow-ups, and you actually specifically mentioned the stances and getting knockdowns on the stances. So let's talk about the knockdowns first, and then we'll go into the Oki follow-up game. So first of all, just with stances, like when you say knockdown from stances, which like stances and moves are you referring to?
Talking, for example, meditation, dragonfly, super dragonfly, and then of course flee. Depending on, for example, if they're low sweeps or counter hits, you can get launchers or knockdowns that lead you to to mix-ups, which everybody knows, which is Yoshi's famous thing, is the door knocker. Whereas you low sweep them or you trip them up, then you pick them up and then you hit them again, and then it leaves them just kind of right next to you as soon as you finish hitting them there. And an example of that would be Dragonfly K. It's one of his more popular ones that people usually get mixed up with, is that, and then his Dragonfly B mix-up, which is a mid.
Which is pretty reactable.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've heard, if I remember correctly, like once you do that, you block low first and look for the mid, right? So it's kind of reversed, and that's usually what messes people up, because the low is usually the slower of the two. But,
the low's like 19 frames or something, and the mid, the B option's like 30 frames. So you can usually pick them apart.
Usually.
Usually,
so
yes.
Keyword is usually.
Online, you can't do it.
Gotcha. So after those knockdowns, then like I know the K, the fleet or not fleet, the helicopter K, that goes to the juggle, of course. Now the other one, do you usually just take like a 3B and then move on with your life, or are you usually doing something different?
3B, Dragonfly B. After you get hit by it, you're actually guaranteed a free 3B launcher, which then once again leads to the whole, basically Yoshimitsu's bread and butter, which is launchers followed up by a lot more damage depending on what you follow it up with. Mm-hmm. I believe, for example, like what I'll follow up with sometimes Ear Slicer or Parting Thrust, which is A slide B plus K. Mm-hmm. Other people use 6K. I know MKL usually uses that follow up as well.
Yep.
Gotcha. Now, is that it's been a while since I messed with that, but the A slide BK, that leads to like a free unblockable, right?
Yeah, it's a complete mix-up, really. It's not.
Like that becomes another, I guess you would say, another like 50-50 kind of. I mean, I call it more of a 33% gamble, if anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of something along those lines. It does usually lead to a Death Copter mix-up, which is basically Yoshi's either 7, 8, 9, A plus B. And the thing about it is, if you stay grounded, or excuse me, if you Kemi, or if you try to tech roll or get up, in most cases, it's usually guaranteed. in most ways, it's really, and this is the reason why I say it's like a 33%. Like there's so many ways like and complications about Yoshimitsu in terms of how you can actually hit somebody with that mix up. But I mean, yeah, like the basic one is you can Ukemi and just guard it, which is usually what a lot of people try to do that, which still leaves Yoshimitsu in a safe situation when it's blocked. Or you can basically just lay on the ground and Yoshimitsu will just completely whiff it.
Depending on character, like Serve
Yeah.
gets hit on the ground.
Yeah, like this is the reason why I said I'm like it gets really
Yeah.
in-depth. Like Yoshimitsu.
You could write a novel on how crazy this mix-up is.
and I actually am. I've been working on a post for a while about this, about just Yoshimitsu's so character model dependent and based that it, like, you know, based on honestly the opponent you're fighting leads and results to just how much more damage or less damage you can actually give to an opponent. Like it gets really in depth. It's ridiculous.
Interesting.
I did a YouTube video on that mix-up, and it doesn't cover it super well. It just covers his main options, but I'll probably give you a link to post on the front page article for that.
Yes, please, because I know I'll be interested in taking a look at it, because I've seen people, Yoshi players, using that a bunch, but yeah, I knew it wasn't guaranteed, but I know that especially. It's kind of goofy because it sounds, you know, like you as the Yoshi player, you have to know all the options available to you, but at the same time, so do they. Like, oh hey, I'm playing Yoshi. Okay, now I need to know that my character needs to do this, this, or this.
Yep.
Otherwise, I'm going to eat a bunch of damage.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to backtrack just a little bit and go back to the stances. So we were talking about you know, the Dragonfly B and Dragonfly K. Now, in addition to that, do you guys try to use any of the other stuff like sit down or?
Meditation's awful, I think, but it can be used in clutch situations, like when you think your opponent's just flustered.
Mm-hmm.
Flee is his best stance. I think most Yoshis would agree. Ring out, do you agree?
Once again, it's situational. Flee is a great stance considering most of those moves that come out of there are relatively safe, except for K. What I mean by that is, for example, like you can use Flee B. You can delay it, which leaves you at neutral on block. You can use his A, but it's not as unsafe.
But it's still terrible.
Yeah, it's still not that great. And then you can always use Flee hold K when you hold it, and you'll just hit him with a low.
Yeah, the main juice from that stance is that it tech jumps in like 3 frames. So if you think a peer is gonna 1K you, you can just press B plus K to put you in Flee, do Flee K, and then do the Dragonfly A plus B follow up for like 80-90 damage.
Yeah.
Nice. But, so that's so it's not necessarily that it's, you know, mix up based or anything. It's just that it gets you out of situations.
Yeah, its strength is not mix ups. It doesn't have a competent low in it, really.
It does not.
Now, what's the run? Yes. Do you guys use run? I love that move.
Run?
Flee run forward.
Oh yeah, yeah.
6-6.
Definitely.
6-6.
Yes.
It's unsafe on hit. It's like -15. So
yeah, I know.
Only use it as a round ender, and I find myself barely ever using it in general.
Gotcha. So like you guys, I mean, for all intents and purposes, you don't use Flee really for anything other than Flee K, and only after it avoids something. We hold it for hold B, I believe, because it's just such a good. It's really good on guard. It's neutral on block. Like it does guard damage quite a bit, if I remember right.
Yeah, it does a decent amount. I mean, like I said, it's depending. A lot, like this is the reason why I guess I get my Yoshimitsu is really silly sometimes. I use a lot of just stupid and unsafe moves, and an example of that would be I honestly use Flee a lot for the A plus B version or use of it, which is basically where you jump around. Now, oddly enough, if you ever do block that move, it's ridiculously like safe on block to the point that you're like 10 frames ahead, I believe, or it's plus 12 on block.
10.
It's plus 12 actually, I believe, on block to the point that like, you know, if they do anything after that, they're gonna get punished for it. But what I mean by that is, for example, he has a lot of ways to kind of switch into that stance. For example, he can fake moves that put him into that stance, and then I'll either dish out, Flee B, or I'll just jump, just so I can do some card damage with it, because I believe it breaks in like 6 or 7 hits.
Yeah, that's his best guard break from
Yeah.
stance easily.
Gotcha. Yeah, 2A plus B. That's my juice right there. I love that ground stab. And then you just go right into flee. I don't know why. I just really like that. And then sometimes finishing it just cause. Why not? I know
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah, it's a super good move.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good. I use it all the time as well. I mean, because when you stance transition, I believe you're technically like +1 on block on that
Yep.
move. So like you can usually throw out fleet B if they try to react to it, and with most characters, you usually beat them to the punch.
nice. Yeah, because I just thought about that when you mentioned the stance transitions. What else does he have that goes into flee aside from 2A plus B?
Um, there is I believe it's 4/4 BK. If you're using that where he kind of rolls and then he kind of pokes you,
Mhm.
it's basically a roll. It's a tech crouch roll, and then it's usually just a quick vertical stab. But you can usually use that move and then transition into either flee or meditation stance. And I use a lot of this. A lot of my combos, especially if someone's trying to space me out, I usually use a lot of mix-ups with that. Depending on, like, for example, if it's usually a spacing character. And it's a little silly of an idea. I always think it's kind of a big gamble. But a lot of times the transitions usually can catch people off guard, depending on what they're doing.
Yeah, he has this
Um,
hilarious mix-up from that move, which is 4/4 B plus K, and then he'll go into meditation from it, and then use meditation's headbutt, which is like forward A plus B K, and it like looks so smooth when he does. It looks like he just like slides across the floor for like a round-ending low.
it's really, yeah. I use it all the damn time. It's honestly one of my favorite round enders because of how quickly it is. It's and like once again that's even a 50-50. If someone thinks it's coming out, they either have to guess it's going to be a low or it's going to be the stab in the mid. So you
Yeah.
honestly just have to just guess.
So from the 4/4 B plus K, just real quick, how do you get into like I'm for some reason having some trouble. How do you get into stances from that? You just cancel it with like G and then do the stance, or
Um,
Yeah, you can go into that actually.
okay. So typically, usually when you do that, if you hit, for example, say if you hit 2 B plus K after you throw it out, Yoshimitsu won't even throw out an attack. He'll roll and end up in meditation stance because meditation's 2 B plus K normally. And then if you want to do flee, you basically do 4/4 B plus K and then just press B plus K again, and he'll be on his sword, like almost like instantaneously when he's done rolling. And like from there, you can immediately throw out your attack, depending on what mix-up you want to do from those stances.
it has a lot of button presses.
Exactly.
So-
Yeah.
Like doing that round-ending low he does is like so many button presses in a row that I can barely do it half the time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
He also
That's okay though. That's
to
interesting.
flee from 6/6 A plus B, which is a pretty solid one, I think.
Is that does it cancel or does it do it and then go into?
Yeah, like you can press the G, and then he goes like right into guard. But if you press the flee, he does have like it looks like he has to go into flee, so it's kind of seeable, but they don't want to do anything because if you get hit by 6/6 A plus B, that's not something you want to do.
Yeah, it does a decent amount of damage, and I mean, if your timing's like precise, you can still get a Curtis out of that. It's
Yeah.
stupid.
Well, that I was actually going to ask a while back, like when we started to get into the stance discussions about how you get into those, and I think a lot of players tend to think of it like, okay, I'm in advantage now. I'm going to run up and go into a stance and force a mix up, but I mean, just based on everything that we've talked about thus far, it sounds like most of what you guys are doing, it's not just going into stances raw. You're moving around, you're creating confusion, you're going into stances from other moves.
Yeah.
So does that, like, I guess, correctly summarize like how you're playing them and how you're using those stances?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Because a lot of the
Um,
stances don't really have true 50/50s out of them, except maybe Super Dragonfly, which is questionable.
Kinda. I mean, it's the way I believe it is when you get in, like when you play Yoshimitsu, his stances, a lot of them eventually become, and this sounds kind of odd to say, but I guess it applies to most fighting games. I would like to believe is it kind of becomes a game of psychology where you psych them out. If you can get in your opponent's head, you can literally manipulate him to thinking, this is what he's going to keep doing, and you don't. and it even gets into more depth than that. A big example is, for example, with Dragonfly stance. In most cases, when people go into Dragonfly stance, they immediately either throw out the B or the K. I mean, it just usually makes sense, I guess you would assume. But I mean, then you have your occasional person. I do this sometimes where I'll go into the stance and I will literally stand there for 2 seconds and then drop out a move. And it's not even about whether or not it's reactive or not. It's then becomes a bunch of other situations. Should I attack? Should I actually guard? Should I crouch and block? You literally then add a lot more situations into the whole mix up.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I learned pretty quick. This is like week 1 or 2 when the game came out, and people started to catch on to that, and they realized that you could just block for the low until you see the mid. But then when you freeze and you hold it, like you can tell that they can't make up their mind. Like, they're popping up and out. They're like, oh my God, which one is he going to do? And it's just really, really funny because that's exactly, you're exactly right. When you have a character like that who has so many stances, the idea isn't to, do like a straight up 50-50. It's move around, add, because your reaction time is going to slow the more you have to think about. So, like, if you're just like it's all flashy and all this stuff is being thrown at you, it's confusion. Plain and simple. So
Totally.
when you have to sit there and think about about your defensive options while at the same time trying to plan your own offense, that can work in your favor, of course. So I did want to just because we haven't really talked about it much, I did want to ask about Super Dragonfly. So how I know that he has the 8A. Is that really the only thing that you're using to get into the?
That's his only move transition that goes straight up into Super Dragonfly.
So you guys aren't really going Dragonfly and then going into.
I have my opponent locked up. I'll totally take a free Super Dragonfly.
Yeah. That's like I said, it's all situational. You can do that. And same thing, most likely they're going to sit there and guard because they don't want to get hit by any of the mix-ups. So, what's another one of their options is going to Super Mangi Dragonfly and then make it even, a tougher situation. And, in most cases, I'll usually go into Dragonfly or Super Mangi Dragonfly from the Dragonfly stance. I don't really use AA anymore. I only have one use for it, and it's because it's an immediate tech jump.
Yeah, and it tech crouches for a short bit.
Yeah, it sounds a little weird because usually when he's doing it, he's check crouching at first, but at the same time, as soon as you initiate the attack, you're immediately up in the air. One example, you could try this out one day, or if anybody else wants to, if you try say using Yoshimitsu's low, his critical edge. If you're guarding and you see that nowadays, I just press AA and you'll immediately just avoid it, guaranteed.
Yep. And you can you can scrub them out and do SDF KK.
Yeah, you can just do whatever. Yeah, you can do whatever you want to them after that. It's a pretty neat move, but I feel like using it to transition wise, it doesn't seem as useful.
Well, the main drawback is that Super Dragonfly drains health, so it is that's the only drawback of the move is it puts you in SDF and that drains health.
Yeah. A lot of people use it after I believe it's a 1K or any kind of kangaroo kick that knocks them up in the air. People usually follow it up with AA because you didn't get a decent amount of follow-up damage.
And you get a free mix-up after that, which is nice.
Kind of. Same thing. It all depends. Because if you hit them with that, a lot of people usually will just air control out of the way. And at that rate, if they're so far away, there's no point in draining any more life to chase them from up there.
Yeah.
But what about the K thing? Because you can gain health from that, or
you can, and it's maybe this is a little fact. I guess I've never really I make this mistake. I never speak much of the forums. I feel bad about that. But here's an interesting exploit, and I think Namco didn't really tell anybody this. I'm pretty sure you're familiar in Dragonfly and Super Dragonfly. You can it's called Turbo Boost or something like that, I believe, where you can actually move quicker forward or backwards. Yeah. Now, in Super Mangi Dragonfly, you are able to do that still. Here's the problem. For example, Super Mangi Dragonfly, the move that heals you, if you are speeding up and you dish out that attack, you technically will never. The game does not let you land. Doesn't matter what you do. it's just you can't do it. I guess the game reads it as, for example, you're already dishing out the move by speeding up. So every time you try to hit B, it does not work at all. It just won't. And it's just an exploit, I guess, a mistake, I guess, with the button inputs, or I guess how it reads it when Yoshi's up there. So I don't really use it because like if you're moving normally, you're not moving anywhere. If you turbo and you move up there, yeah, you can do stuff. But trying to use the heal after speeding up, you'd have to wait until you come to a complete stop to actually use it, and then actually be able, or even be given the opportunity to try to land the K and heal yourself, which also leads to a Quake stun.
Yeah.
But
There's like after the mix-up though, if you 1K AA them, like if I'm really low on health and like they have a life lead, I will sometimes throw it out to try it because I'm pretty good at that just frame and it really regains health.
Yeah, like one example, I'll use it a lot on infinite stages if someone's just gonna run away all day. If you 8A, and this is once again all comes into like all the just silly nonsense and facts about like character data and just really weird exploits by Yoshimitsu. If you 8A and you immediately press K, look at his health bar. This is something interesting. You'll notice that you'll see a quick line flash through it, and it's kind of like a gauge for timing on when you have to hit the K. And if you actually look at that, like take a look at it one day. It's something that I guess many people don't notice either. But it'll actually kind of give you like a timing on when you have to hit K to land it for the just frame of it. And in most cases, I'll throw it out sometimes if I'm just being silly, or feeling bold, I suppose. If I think I can land it and I get healed, they're immediately going to be like, all right, I'm not running away anymore. Like that's going to piss somebody off. They're going to come to you, I promise.
Totally. And most people don't even know about it. It's like it has an AGI if you hit the just frame of it, which AGI is everything. So they have to throw you if you nail the just frame, and most people don't realize that.
Yeah. It'll literally just frame, or excuse me, it'll GI everything, and it's like a long GI. We're talking like probably like a 60 frame GI or something along that line. It
just says, long. Please throw me.
That's
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, obviously, there's a bunch of situational stuff that goes along with these stances, which we might come back to. But it just like generally speaking, was there anything that we missed or that you think was important with the stances that we didn't talk about? Because I think we talked about them
all. You can just say that we didn't go over meditation too much, and that's one that I don't really like the stance because most characters with a competent backstep can just wait until you flash and backstep every single option you have, except warp, which warp's nice to use, but I don't know, the whole stance just bugs me.
Yeah. I guess whereas I actually don't mind the stance a lot, I actually will use it out sometimes from a lot of like attack transition into stance moves, which for example, like I said, like we discussed earlier, like 4/4 B plus K. A lot of times I'll use that attack and mix it into meditation. And I'll mix it up into Meditation K, which leads to Kangaroo Kick, which is basically Yoshi's 1K. And the reasons for that is because it actually does a decent amount of guard damage. And if for some reason a lot of people tend to step when they see it coming out, and they don't have enough time to react to it, so it usually will catch people either sidestepping or just trying to backstep. And then that gives you decent amount opportunities for damage. It doesn't leave you in that bad of a situation if you need to find a way to get in.
Med K breaks in like 6 or 7. It's really, really good as far as that.
I believe I'm pretty sure it's 8, but yeah, like it's just good in general.
Gotcha. All right. Well, before I ask a question to kind of take us down another road, was there anything else that we missed in there? Again, of course, situational stuff aside.
No, I think we covered stances pretty well.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Right.
So I want to go kind of to the other side of the coin a little bit because it sounds like Ring Out, you like to use those stance transitions. You like to jump around on your sword a bunch and do all that stuff. Now MKL, it sounds like you take a little bit of a safer route when you play. So I do want to talk about the poking and getting in because sometimes they're mutually exclusive, sometimes not. But I know at least when I played him, I really, even though I typically stuck to a couple of pokes, I felt his pokes were really good. Like I love 2B, love his 2B.
That's one of his best.
Yes.
That's the only thing he has that has range, even.
It's the only. It's Yoshi's. Literally, it's perhaps one of Yoshi's furthest range pokes. It's amazing.
Yeah. But I was also a huge fan of his 2K.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, as far as just like low pokes go, it doesn't have the most range. Obviously, 2B has more range, but at the same time, it seems to have more range than a lot of other characters have on their quick low pokes like that. And then, of course, their 3K is like so quick sometimes, like borderline a poke. So with that, I guess, how do you usually get it, like when you're playing that style and you're just poking, or you're trying to use stuff that you're not going to get take a lot of risk with? Like, what are you usually revolving it around pokes and then just waiting for an opportunity to get in, or are you using I don't know, maybe a couple moves to get in and then poking?
Yeah, the Yoshi's main weakness is getting in this game. So, I mean, half the battle you'll spend thinking of new ways to get in. And then once you're in, it's essentially trying to fit in Mangi Carve Fist where it's appropriate in your pokes. Like, I mean, my favorite move he has is 6B, which is essentially just a mid version of a 2A. Like, it has almost the exact same like frame data across the board, but it's just mid. And it leaves him at like +6, which on block is a pretty good damn time to throw out Mangi Carve Fist. And I'll do that all the time and catch like numerous amounts of people with something like that. Or something like a 2K, which on hit is -2. People still get hit by Mangi Carve Fist after 2K. And it's like, yeah, you just find appropriate times to use Mangi Carve Fist in your pokes, and that generates your damage.
Gotcha. So you're just sticking to, AAs, 3K, 2A, 2B, whatever it is, and you're just kind of chipping away until you can land that counter hit.
Yeah, that's a lot of it. And he has a bunch of like pretty damaging pokes in reality that I don't see too many people use. I consider B slide A to be a pretty good poke. It's like -10 on guard, which isn't good for a poke. But if you do get the counter hit, it's 70 damage, and it has reasonably okay range. So it's one of those pretty cool things. It leaves you at +4 on hit, which is also pretty damn good for him.
Well, I guess I mean, to that point, even it's -10, which is fine, but you're not really going to get punished for -10.
No, it just leaves you in a shitty position usually.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at this, I don't know, like going back to Ring Out's point with the whole the whole game of psychology that you're playing. Like, if even though you're giving up the momentum, if you get the -10, you still have to be aware of the Mangi Carve Fist.
Yeah.
And if you just try to go, like, let's say that you're playing against a Yoshi, you block that, sweet, I'm at -10. Well, if you try to run something that's I don't know, 17, 18 plus frames, or you're just moving around and then you're going to do a quick move, whatever it is, as long as you let some time pass, all of a sudden that fist comes into play.
Exactly.
So you have to make a quick decision on it. And like you mentioned, so the counter hit yields a ton of damage. So for a relatively safe move that, or I guess for the all intents and purposes, we can just call it safe. For a safe move that yields 70 plus damage on counter hit, and really because of his other tools, specifically the Mangi Fist, doesn't really leave you at too bad of a position.
No,
I would say that's pretty good.
Yeah.
You want to use Mangi Carve Fist, I think, when you're in those situations where you're in, either you're punishable and they don't punish quite right, or you're just barely, you're on that -10 range. That's usually a pretty decent place to put one in.
Yeah. Thing about Yoshi is, like I said, since he has, since he has what I consider one of the fastest moves in the game, or the fastest move that's not from a stance transition, it leaves what you would say frame trap situations, like it completely negates that kind of. And what I mean by that is, for example, like I say being -6 is like the spot you want to be in where you can throw out Mangi Curve Fist and you can probably beat most of the cast in terms of their next attack. And minus 10, like you can try to throw it out. It's a mixed results on what they're gonna do. But I mean, along the ranges of -6 to -8, like those aren't bad times to throw it out, depending on how
No, good
quickly
times.
or yeah, like they're great times to throw it out because it's just such a quick move. And it works the same way. For example, if someone hits you with an attack where once you block it, they're technically ahead. For example, I believe it's like Nightmare's 6/6B. I think he's like +2 on hit or on block. Excuse me. Most cases, Nightmares will usually try to do that left hook or that jab that just hits you and you get counter hit and you get knocked down. Well, in most cases, sometimes for example, I'll try to throw out Mangi Purpose after that because odds are I'm gonna beat him to the punch there. So it leads to a lot more things you have to be wary of because of how quick that move comes out.
Well, and I also think, just generally speaking, you kind of that momentum that they get, like, because obviously you mentioned with Nightmare a situation where most players are going to follow it up with the same sort of thing, but once you start to get wise to it, they'll switch it up and whatnot. But if you can force their hand, yeah, but
Backstep 3B, yeah, that's
yeah.
another.
But if you can, kind of force their hand a little bit, and make them make a decision, it's even though you're technically on the defensive, you're still dictating what it is they're doing.
Yeah.
So, or what they have to do in order to.
Yeah, there's not too many things, or there's not too many situations where Yoshi will truly be on the offensive since he has 214A and Mangi Carfist. Like, he can at least throw them out, and like sometimes they'll work even if in the most defensive situations.
Yeah, definitely. And
well, I know that tricks people, like the 214A that you mentioned. I know it tricks people up because you can kind of do it from full crouch, so he just kind of sits down there for a while,
Yeah,
and then stuff just goes right over his head. But
an instant tech crouch, it does it on first frame. So I mean, if they're getting really stupid with their AA or throws, give them a free fucking 214A.
That's usually my thing. If I can, especially in this game, I don't know why. For some reason, I'm really, really bad at breaking throws. Like, really bad. Like, even if I'm there, I'm always wrong. No matter what, I'm always picking wrong. Like, I just don't know. But so whenever I get the opportunity, if I have an option to do something else other than try to break a grab, that's what I'll do. So for him, I'm always throwing that stuff out. But anyway. So I think you were sorry. I think you were in the middle of saying something. Ring out.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like you were just saying about throws. And like a lot of the pokes he was talking about, for example, like Yoshi's. Like we're talking about pokes like 2B, great long range poke. A lot of people use like the backstep, and you throw that move out, you'll completely just hit them. Usually, in most cases. The 3K, it's not a bad one. It kills step, so I like to use that one out a lot as well. And since it's -6 on block, it's a great time to also throw out Mangi Carfist. The other one that MKL was talking about, it's really, really good one, and I love it a lot, is basically it's Yoshi's 6B. Same thing. It's a 13 frame move poke, and it's similar to his 2A, but on hit, even counter hit, same thing, you're +8. So from there, in most cases, if they don't know that you're that ahead on hit, then you can hit them with a Carfist. But if you realize that they start guarding, then you can immediately mix it up with say grabs or mix up with lows, things like that. Whereas a lot of cases when I hit them with 6B or if I hit them with 6/6A, both of those you're plus like 6 or +8. I'll mix them up with grabs, which Yoshimitsu's grabs they're great. They do decent damage. They're 50 and 55. Depending on which one you throw at. I believe his B grabs 55, and they're a great tool to use when you're using attack, mixing up with your opponent. It's a great thing to use. So like once you get pokes in there and you actually find a way in, that's the main thing you have to do. Depending on who you're playing against, in terms of character specifics, with your pokes, you can either play defensively or with mix-ups that are relatively like safe mix-ups per se.
So I did want to ask, because we've been talking about a lot of what he does well, and we have mentioned risk, but I want to go back to something that MKL said, because he it sounds like getting in is his big issue in this game. So how? I mean, it sounds like both of you are doing different and creative things to solve that problem. But like to the new player who's trying to pick up Yoshimitsu, like what do you recommend? What's a starting point? Just like sit back and block and then figure it out from there, or what? How would you approach that?
Oddly enough, like depending on your opponent, a good gap closer he has, like his longest ranged attack, which is his 6/6 A plus B. It covers a lot of ground, and it's a lot of ways to get in there. For example, it's a great way to, for example, like the thing is about it is you can cancel the attack. So a lot of times people try to, force their way in there by either, walking in there slowly, I quick step. Back then, when I first was learning the character, I used to use a lot of moves where like I would fake transition attacks, or I would use like meditation stances. In this game, they all work to them, and I mean, I wouldn't suggest you constantly do that all the time because then you become too predictable. But if you're learning the character, there's no I wouldn't say there's no wrong way to find a way to get to your opponent,
Mhm.
but you have to find out what works best against them.
Gotcha. So depending on a lot of it's going to be situational. Then. Like depending on your character, where you are, you're going to find different solutions to that. Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, like I use 6/6K a lot to get in.
Yeah. For example, he'll use 6/6K, whereas I'll use a shark attack mix up just to get in, and I'll delay or transition onto where I'm going to end the actual transition of the attack, just so that they can stay guessing because it kind of makes it pseudo safe where like they don't know when you're going to do it. Another one I'll do is, for example, I'll use his Stone Fist combos or 4A, the 4A transitions. It's a pretty quick move. It's pretty fast. For some reason, a lot of people don't crouch it. I don't know why. It just doesn't happen. And it tracks steps. So a lot of times, if you're if you're in a mediocre amount of range and you keep throwing it out, they don't know when you're going to stop. So a lot of times, people will just kind of wait till you're done, and then once you're actually in there, you can actually mix it up with a variety of things like Car Fist as well because they don't know when you're going to stop using that attack. They're always going to have like some slight delay on how quickly they react to you being done attacking.
Now is that out of curiosity, if you happen to hit or if they block that, does it jail? Or
I was just gonna ask that. No one's ever ducked that on me, and I was just curious if it jailed.
It's just I don't know. Like it's just people don't do it. I don't know why. Like I always wondered this. I'm like if I see Stone Fist, I'll just 2A. But like a lot of people see it and they immediately just try to guard it. It's kind of like people who get hit, for example, by Flee or Meditation A. You're hit by it, but everybody guards after they're hit by it. You're not like we're not safe. We're not plus on hit on that attack. We're not. No. But you guard. Even I do it. Like it's just something that people do. It's just a pseudo thing, I guess. It's just a mindset. Stone hands is a big one. Like his stone hand like transitions are just so good.
That's probably his best step catch too.
Yeah. It comes out in 15, but I mean the fact that it covers so much ground and you can stop it, anywhere between 1 to 4 times without actually falling over, it just leads you to a great way to actually get some damage. If it's counter hit and they're stepping, all of it's guaranteed. That's an example of free damage. And I mean, unless you're playing against long range characters, even if they hit you, even if you say you throw out the entire move, all of Yoshi's attacks where he spins around when he attacks, he gets dizzy, he falls down. You don't really get punished, I would say, too often if you do. And if they do hit you something, it's something that's really, small. But the point is like, because after that, they're pushed far away. They're pushed pretty far back after the last hit. But I mean, because of that, like that's one of my favorite moves. Because of how often you can throw it around, and they have to stay guessing on how often or how long they have to block.
Yeah, and it's got a adjust frame in it that we won't even go into, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get in. I'm not gonna get involved. I'm not gonna even explain any of that for now, because like that's the reason why I use that move, and it leads to some. It just leads to some stuff that makes Yoshimitsu's ring out game just unfair. It's depressing in terms of how just unfair it leads to like just dumb stuff.
Well, actually, let's talk about that because I was going to ask about ring outs because I know I do know like you mentioned earlier, door knocker. Door knocker I know is really annoying.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, but just because you're getting spiked down is never fun.
Yeah.
When you get dunked, you
Yeah.
get dunked on.
Where to even begin? I mean, Yoshimitsu, because of his counter hit and door knocker like shenanigans that he can do from the edge of the ring, or just in terms of just arena, like arenas that aren't that big, you can basically carry somebody from a great amount of space depending on how what you decide to do. One of the common ones, say you hit somebody with 6-6B, or 6-6B, and it's counter hit, you can then follow up with door knocker, and you carry them a decent amount of space, and then you can ring them out. The other opportunities, door knocker, you can knock them down from 214A, you can drop them down from Dragonfly K. Heck, with certain characters, and once again, we're going to character specifics. With Deathcopter and Super Mangi Dragonfly B, if you hit him with that, it leads to a free door knocker, counter hit, and the 3B. You can still ring him out from really stupid stuff.
Yeah, sometimes it depends on the character model. That's it's very strange to do that.
And this is the reason why, like, when I played the game, like, the reason, like, the name Ring Out came from the fact that in 4, his Ring Out game was obnoxiously overpowered.
It was so fucking good. I miss it.
Yes.
Well, it's still good, but it was way too good in 4.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, his Iron Fist possession was the reason why. Because, I mean, that followed up with the fact that, like, Parting Thrust, or I guess back then it's called Ear Slicer, they would just slide out of the arena.
Yeah, slide
they would
so far.
Like, yeah, they would just slide like Jello. They just fall out there, and like that's it. The round's over immediately, and that's what made him so good. And I mean, that's from back then. I'm not even gonna get involved in terms of what else you could do in that game. But like in this game, you can still do things like that, and the range in terms of how far you can carry you out from is that it's just that good. One of the famous ones that I do a lot, and I usually do it as like a desperation attempt if I need to steal a round, is I'll start the round off with Yoshimitsu's Brave Edge, his 6-6A Brave Edge, which is basically the horizontal that if you get hit by a counter hit of it, he then hits you with his palm and he stuns you. So I'll do a complete Brave Edge transition where I'll throw out 6-6A Brave Edge followed by 6B Brave Edge. Then I'll use that and follow it up with 3AB Brave Edge. And you will carry them out to the edge of the arena, and if you use Parting Thrust after that, you can then once again pick them up off the ground with Door Knocker, because Door Knocker is just broken that way, and then just carry them out of the arena. I do it to everybody if I can. It's always a desperation attack if I need to really get around, and it's a hit or miss. It's a hit or miss kind of attack. I've done it in tournaments. I've done it online. I've done it offline. I've done it casually. It's just good. Yoshimitsu's Ring Out game, that's just, there's so many ways to do it because of the fact that he can carry people off the ground from Door Knocker, from a lot of just basic attacks. That gives him a lot of Ring Out potential still in this game. A lot of characters can't do that. They kind of have to just hit you out of it. Except for characters like Astaroth, Nightmare. Everyone has their own opportunities to do it, but it's rare that one of Yoshimitsu's tools, the fact that he can actually move characters or carry them around out of the arena even after they're grounded, is something that's really gimmicky, but still gives him a huge benefit in terms of what he can do. Now, I guess the last one, and I guess this is what you were asking about, was the Stone Hand, the 4 AAAA Just Frames. Those still exist in this game, and they're still really good. I throw them out all the time, and if you like, and that's just something that when you have a lot of experience, you eventually can master that. You can throw it out willingly every time. If you do get the just frame of it, it becomes a guard break, and you then have a random chance to recover, and from that you once again can do two things. You can either, if they're near the arena, you can use Parting Thrust and then door knock them out of the arena, or you can throw it out again if you don't think you have enough range to carry them out. And if you just frame it again, you get an extra launcher. And that's the reason why it's good, is because the just frame series of that, after you hit them with it, a first and second time, it'll ring them out over small and medium sized walls. It won't wall split them, and it carries
insanely long range.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's unfair if you can actually get it off and you can actually dish it out properly. but it's a really advanced move. And the thing about it is, it's not guaranteed. It's a complete gamble. You have to just throw it out and be like, either hits or misses.
It's a
And that all
Dampier
depends.
style. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you won't recover no matter what. Like, the game decides whether or not you're going to recover, whether or not you nail that just frame.
Yeah.
Weird.
But I mean, like, either way, like, a lot of times I'll do this. Like, now I'll throw it out for that reason, is because if I know, like, even if I don't recover, it's decent damage overall. I mean, it leads like that followed up by off a 3B. At least it still leads to good damage. Is the point. So you don't really lose much by not actually getting the actual result of it where you recover, because that along with it's the fact that you actually have to nail 5 just frames like that in a row makes it difficult. So it then requires a lot of timing and a lot of luck. And
And
I
a
like that about
prayer.
Yoshimitsu. Yeah, you have to. Like that's one of the that's one of the examples. Like Yoshi's ring out game in this game is still really good. It is.
Yep, totally still good.
Yeah, but I mean a lot of it now. Like for example, his Stone Fist combos, they carry you out still, and they have a lot of range. If you can learn that, like if you become really good at this character, and that's one of the things you want to decide to learn, by all means go for it, because your ring out game will it'll increase dramatically because of that. Like for example, UFGT. It was funny. I was playing with Hawkeye, and we were playing casuals, and that happened to him like 8,000 times, where I would get recoveries. I would literally start of the match. For example, Mitsurugi stage. I would be on like one end of the wall, and I'll hit him, and I'll get the just frame, and I'll recover, and I'll hit him again with it, and I get the just frame. I don't recover, but he's out of the arena, and he's just there cursing me out. It's funny stuff.
Oh man, that guy cracks me up. Anyway, so is it? Hey, man, there's like so much going on with that.
That's
but
the problem with him, is there's so much information.
And this is the reason why, like, I even told like the Yoshimitsu like forum. I was like, I never really speak much on the forums. I mean, I didn't get competitive until 5. I played in 4, and everyone knew me because my name was such a troll-looking name. I mean, no one forgets the name, obviously. But I never provided much to the community, and I did apologize for that. I was like, I learned so many things about character model specifics, and there's just too much to say, even on this, on this podcast.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I'm compiling something for, just every single tip, trick, just random facts, stuff you can do, like that just Yoshimitsu can dish out, like that leads to either guaranteed damage, extra damage, tricks, gimmicks, stuff that works on certain characters that, kills their stance options or transitions. I mean, it's just so many things to go off of.
Well, for some characters, and this, isn't just caliber specific, but I tell everybody, some people think that we should summarize a little more. Some people think we should give more information on these podcasts, whatever it is. But I've always maintained, like it's supposed to be a starting spot. Like when we tell you that you're signing up for homework, you have to realize that you're signing up for homework.
Yeah, definitely.
So and Yoshi isn't the only character out there like that. There's other characters, of course, and even characters that are relatively simple in their play style. Like I can actually give you a good example in Tekken for Kazuya. Like when we did that podcast, for the most part, he's pretty straightforward in what he can and can't do. But at the same time, there's so much situational stuff that you have to remember with whether or not this move will hit on this character and that character. And, there's a billion characters in that game. So, there's a lot to remember, a lot to look into and take notes on and whatever it may be. And it sounds like Yoshi, is that same way. You can play him a billion different ways.
Definitely.
But you mentioned he has a big move list. But at the same time, there's a core set of moves that you're going to be using. But it's just how you want to mix it in, and you have to take notes, whether it be mentally or actually writing it down, and you have to kind of go with it, and just remember it, hopefully, when it matters most.
Definitely is.
So with that, let's see. We talked about the ring outs. I think we covered juggles. Although I did want to ask real quick. Does it like choosing between trying to ring someone out and just doing like your standard juggle, is that something that just comes with time, or is that another sort of play style dependent thing? Like I play riskier, so I'm going to go for it, or do you just kind of feel out when a ring out may or may not happen?
Oh, if you're gonna ring them out. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's always those gray areas, where you don't know.
As
yes.
far as execution?
Whatever it may be, whether it's execution or if you're just in that gray area, you don't know if you're quite going to get there or not, if it's worth risking it.
Yeah, there is. There definitely is. Yeah.
Okay, so is that just something that comes with time, or is it like another situational thing where you have to know on this character, yeah, I can probably get him there?
It's kind of a yes to both of those lines, where it is character specific, and whether or not you can do it or not is just the next questionable thing. What I mean by that is, for example, like in most of those cases, you can hit somebody with that, and you can just door knock them regardless, or you could juggle them, and you know for a fact it's not going to ring them out. But just for safer reasons and character reasons, you don't want to throw up, say, for example, another option that would do more damage, because in weird, once again, weird issues happen where you'll either just whiff the attack or it just won't hit them. It's the same thing for ringing out as well. There is weird instances where certain characters where if you knock them down and you try to door knock them, and I know a lot of people who play Yoshi, when they hear this, they're going to agree with this. You try to door knock, the first hit picks them up and they just drop completely. And you're still throwing out the door knocker thinking, yes, I'm going to throw this guy out of the arena. No. And you just you get completely whiff punished for it. And it's just so unfortunate when it happens. It's really obnoxious. I mean, there's also the other famous one is Yoshi's 2-2-B. It whiffs up close every time. And it's been like that since 4. It's a good vertical. I mean, it's a pretty decent, it's a good launcher if you hit them, and it does great damage. It's relatively safe because of distance, but it's still a good move. But the problem is, once again, if you throw it out and it whiffs completely, you're like, well, now what do? They can just freely hit you because you're just sitting there for a good 60 frames, just not doing anything to them.
Gotcha. Well, along the same lines, not to completely derail that line of thought, I did want to ask real quick about his wall game, because I know he has a lot of stuff that knocks you into the wall.
So good.
And then and then I know you can do like a billion Mangi fists if you want to. So what's the typical wall thing like? Is it again like a flavor like preference
splat.
or?
Yeah, you do a wall splat, then 2 A+B B, which will stun them twice, and then you can launch them again into the wall, and then you can do Mangi Card Fist when they land, and then you could launch them again after that, or you could go into CE. You could do so many things.
Yeah. I guess the bread and butter one that a lot of people usually do is, like I said, you knock them into the wall, and then you follow it up with 2 A+B. And then you hit B again, I believe, or it's something like that. And then it's a 2-hit attack that stuns them. Or people just usually use 1 B+K, same thing. It results in the same stun. Usually after that, people I've seen it a lot back then as well, was they'll follow it up with door knocker, because they're still standing high when they get hit by that stun, and it all goes through and flows smoothly. And then after that, that's the second wall hit, so you can just 3B them, and then you can follow it with something else, like either, you can CE them, you can launch them up and then 6K them. You can do a lot of launcher followed up by different attacks, depending on what you prefer. But that's usually the starting attack for wall games. That's usually the bread and butter one people throw out.
Gotcha. So before I forget, I did want to ask about the meter management and meter, because you just said CE, which reminded me of it a couple times. Now, a lot of what actually, aside from 66A Brave Edge, I think that's the only one that I recall that has been mentioned so far being used outside of a juggle. So how is it something that you guys really see as obviously if you can use it and add damage to your combos, that's plus, of course, but is it something that that really, really, really benefits him, or can he just kind of chill on it until he really needs it?
This is where him and I differ the most, I think. I
Okay.
save his meter completely for GICE. Well, sometimes I'll do his 3A B Brave Edge because it's a counter hit launcher, and you can hit confirm it. That's like his only one I think is pretty good. The other ones are a little bit too risky for me, but he uses. Well, I'll just let him go into it.
Okay.
Yeah, like this is the weird thing. Every time I try to every time I try to GI into critical edge, and like that's the big one. Yoshimitsu has a really strong critical edge. It does like 110 damage or something like that. And because it's so dangerous, people just they have to respect that the GI critical edge mix combo because it's just a good thing to use as meter. It's a good use of meter. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just like weird or bad or something. Every time I try to GI critical edge, it doesn't come out for me, and I suck at it. And, like on rare occasions, I will try it out, and I mean it's good, but for some reason, like it's because I play a little bit more riskier, I guess sometimes, and I'm a little bit more, I guess, high execute. I'm a little bit more, I guess you could say, execution heavy based. Based on like most of his attacks, like his brave edges all of them give counter hit confirms that lead to good damage. And what I mean by that is they all lead to a stun that you can follow up with a launcher, in the long run, that basically you can follow up with, his higher execution based moves, which then lead to even more damage, which is kind of the same results of, 110 or, 90 or something like that. So, like you said before, his 3AB Brave Edge is hit confirmable. It catches steps, so a lot of times, if you throw it out and you hit him with it, and you hit him with the Brave Edge of it, you get a launcher. So same thing. Same reason I use it is, knock him in the air, and then you can either follow it up with something else for more damage. You can give him a 6K, or basically use A slide B plus K, and then give him an unblockable mix-up. His 6-6A is my favorite one.
Oh, it's my least favorite one.
Yeah, it's stupid. It's stupid unsafe if they know how to just guard a second hit.
Or just step it.
They can step it, but like I said, it's another pseudo thing. A lot of people just try to just guard it, because a lot of people who try to step it sometimes just you just see them kind of get hit, like they go flying backwards. It's not even a counter hit; they just kind of walk like they got hit in the face or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just looks really funny. Like it does no damage or anything. It's just you hit him with it and like you're +6 or something like that, and it's really silly. But I like that move a lot because it's by far his best step catching move. In terms of the range of it, it's really weird. I've seen people throw it out, including me, where they won't be anywhere near the character, and somehow they'll get hit by it. And it's a counter hit. Once you counter hit confirm it, you can. This is how I usually use the meter management. I always follow it up with 3B Brave Edge, and the reason why is because sometimes curve fist, you can throw out any kind of curve fist form of it, but sometimes regular curve fist, you're just not close enough to do it, and it's just one of those situations I don't like the risk. So I burn 50% meter for a decent amount of their damage or their life. And that's the reason why I like it. On Just Guard, it's -12. So I mean, most characters they can just AA you after that, or most people try to throw out a grab. That's the popular one.
Yeah.
Everybody tries to grab you, but when people try to grab me, I didn't follow it up with 214A, and it just leads to a lot of other shenanigans. That's the reason why I use it. I mean, that's the reason why I prefer it, because in terms of step kill, like I said, it's a great tool to use.
Yeah, it's his most damaging step kill combo starter. It might be his only one, except for Stone Backhand's Just Frame.
Yeah, Stone Backhand's Just Frame. It's silly, but yeah. Because it's his only step kill, like counter hit, like actual move that actually leads to combo potential. It's the reason why I like it. It's also great for guard damage. Oddly enough, it breaks in 7. But I mean, what I mean by that is, for example, if they're flashing yellow and you throw it out, even if they block it, they're still going to take a decent amount of guard damage, and it's going to break. Like your next hard hit on them is going to break them. So like I'll throw it at them, they block it, they hit me once, or they try to attack me. They're flashing red. If I throw it again, then I'm pretty sure it's going to break, guaranteed. If it doesn't
Yeah.
break on the first hit and they don't just guard the second hit, odds are it's going to break on the second hit, and then I get a free hit anyways. Those are the reasons why I like it per se.
I
It's
like to
just
use it when I'm going to guard break with it.
yeah.
That's when I do use it.
I don't know. It's just my favorite Brave Edge. His in terms of using his 6B Brave Edge, just in general, I don't really see much use of it. It's a slower version of Carpus. It has more range, but it's just I believe that if you're able to throw out Carpus fairly a decent amount of the time, then it's just safer to throw it out that way because it's faster. But if you're still learning and you need some work learning how to use it, by all means, that's not a bad time. That's not a bad use of his meter. I mean, at least the counter hit. I mean, you can still hit people with things off of that, and you can still get good damage from that move. Compared to other characters, his Brave Edges aren't exactly the best tools around because there's ways around them. I mean, if you can just guard one of them, just block the Carpus because they block it or something, and then you don't hit, or say you don't hit confirm, but you just throw it out anyways. His 3AB Brave Edge, then you don't really get much results out of it. So I mean, like his meter management, in terms of meter management, I would like to believe a lot of people don't think some of his Brave Edges are that great. So that's the reason why they use GI into CE, because his Brave Edges aren't, they're compared to like the rest of the cast, they could be a little bit better, but they're not.
That's how I've kind of played Yoshi. Is there's like a lot of things that he has that I like, but then they just like it doesn't add up right, so I ditched them completely. Like I completely ditched all of his Brave Edges except for one of them and used my meter for that. Or like the A slide B plus K mix up from 3B is so, like he is saying 33% chance of doing something, so I just shelved that. So yeah.
Consistency.
Yeah, it's kind of like scaling back what I can and can't do.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like I like to play more. Like I like to play more the way like I guess most other Yoshis were. Is I guess you would like to get in your opponent's head, and most of my playstyle benefits from that to the point that usually my my mix up after the A slide B plus K the mix up usually after that I usually hopefully do hit them with it depending on what it is, because I mean from that move there's like usually three things you can do. You can either you can do the unblockable attack, and that catches any Ukemi, and if there are any tech rolls or if they just stand up, it'll catch any Ukemi. It'll catch any Ukemi besides backstep, for example. And if they Ukemi backwards, then that's the mix-up. Then you can throw out 6/6 A plus B, which catches front and back Ukemi, and then that's usually that's the solid around. That's a solid mark about where most of that mix-up comes from. Then there's the other one, and this is once again more in depth, and I'm not going to really get much, I'm not going to explain much about it, but if you take a quick step with Yoshimitsu and then throw out his unblockable attack, it'll hit grounded units, or grounded people. It's just some random fact about, I guess, character specific or character knowledge. I don't know why it works that way. I don't question it, I just do it sometimes.
Yep, you have to do it almost.
Yeah, I usually do it a lot. I mean, and if a lot of people do know that, then the mix-up is, all right, I roll forward, or I roll forward, and then you completely miss the entire attack. So it all depends. Depending on what I think my opponent's going to do, then I can mix it up pretty fairly, and that's why I prefer it that way because it leads to better damage results, just all around.
Yeah, on half the cast, he can door knock them after A slide B plus K, which is guaranteed, but you're not going to get anywhere near the amount of damage you're going to get from doing the mix-up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work on half the cast. So
it's not even that it doesn't work on half the cast. It's just sometimes when you use it, and this is what I said, I don't get it. It's just I just feel like Namco makes Yoshimitsu trollish, even to the point that like just all these random facts get involved and like they know this. When you use that attack, A slide B plus K, they either end up really next to you or close to you when you hit them with it, or they end up so far away that you can't even door knock them at all. And that's a crummy feeling when you want to ring them out. Trust me, I hate it.
Yeah, if you A slide B plus K them into like a ledge, you can pick them up every time, guaranteed.
Yeah, definitely.
So I did want to ask. I know we've gotten a little bit away from the Brave Edge or
Yeah.
the meter stuff. But I did want to ask real quick: is he does his stuff like gain meter pretty quick? Do you ever have to worry about not having it when you need it?
I don't think it gains very well, to be honest.
Depending on how you're using him, it does. Like I said, the reason why is, I guess, your playstyle. Depending on certain moves you use, he has great meter gain. I don't really have much of a meter issue when I use him, and the reason why is, I guess, because I use a lot of stone fists. When you use that, when you get dizzy, you fall on the ground, you can ukemi that, and you gain some good meter from that. And another example is, for example, his flee stances. If you jump and they block it, even if you just jump around in place, you get meter from it.
Yeah, that's one of his best meter gains.
Yeah.
What a goofy attribute.
Yeah, he gains like 1/8 of a bar from jumping around each time.
Yeah. So like on an infinite stage, if they're just gonna space you out, like say you have a life lead and they're just on there, all right, that's fine. Just jump on your sword, get some meter, and then just get back off it and just go from there. It's a great way to gain meter. And like I use flee a lot for jumping around, just because it does guard damage and it's silly. I like it. And I use a lot of his stone fist mix-ups, and because I throw him out consistently, I'll usually get the guard break. So even if I do fall down, I can just ukemi, and it's completely safe for me to just get away. And I gain meter for it still, regardless.
Yeah, so essentially a lot of it is, if he's gaining meter really well, he's doing something that is slightly risky, which I don't agree with a lot of the time.
Yeah. Pretty much.
All right then. Okay, so I was gonna ask. Let's see. Oh yes, because we mentioned it a few times, but we haven't like actually discussed it. I was gonna ask about his guard break game. Now it sounds like it's really really good. Like
it's pretty good. Yeah, it's really underrated. I don't think many people know that he can break guard as well as he can.
Yes, that is definitely true. I think a lot of his moves that just in general just do a decent amount of guard damage are relatively safe moves, honestly.
Yeah, like 1K breaks in some absurd number, and it's completely safe.
Yeah, I'm almost positive it's 8. I'm pretty sure. And that's the reason why I throw it out a lot for meditation. So like a lot like, and that's the reason why a lot of my moves that I throw out that are like mix-ups or like gap closers, I always throw out the same. For example, meditation stance 1K or meditation K, because it does good guard damage. It gets me in there. If they backstep it, odds are it's really hard to backstep that move, kind of. But most people are so paranoid about it that they don't want to get hit usually by something else. But it breaks an 8. It's a great move to use. It's safe. It's just good guard damage. Flee is the same way.
So well.
Yeah,
so well.
It does. Yeah, it does great job doing that. What else do you have? I'm trying to think of other.
B breaks pretty well.
I was gonna say I liked whenever I played him, that was the one that I usually used a little bit, because it kind of accomplished 2 goals. Like you could get in, and then it's still, if you hit, obviously you can get damage off that, but if you didn't hit and they blocked it, you still get something.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the reason why I like a lot of his moves. That like a lot of my moves that I use, yeah, some of them are sometimes they can become risky, but at the very least you get guard damage. Like I said, 6/6 Brave Edge breaks in. Sounds weird. 6. I think it's 7.5. So what I mean by that is like,
right.
Yeah, it's so like,
yeah, that's weird.
So what I mean by that is, like, for example, say you start a round, like in like my first round, odds are I'm probably gonna throw out like 3 1Ks or meditation Ks, because they both break an 8 regardless. So like by the time like round 2 or 3 is done, they're gonna be flashing yellow because of the variety of moves I'm using. And around that time, my third round, I'll usually throw out that Brave Edge, just because it does a superb amount of guard damage. Breaks pretty well.
Totally.
Actually.
Interesting.
A move that not a lot of people really see that often of his is 9 B plus KK, and it breaks in 6 if they block both of them. but you can step the second hit and backstep whatever you want. But it breaks in 6, and not anyone knows that they can really do anything about it. So you can throw that out a lot and get really free guard damage from it.
Yeah. It's a really good move. I mean, and the thing about it, you can step it, you can just guard it. It's real slow, and I mean, you can also do a stance transition mix up, and I think that's the reason why people usually don't step it, is
Yeah,
because
'cause
they're worried that you're gonna throw out a stance transition mix up and then hit them with something else. But I mean, I personally like that move. Here's the weird part about it. Yeah, it breaks in 6, like you said. But even if they just guard it, you can actually jump backwards, and if you do get punished off of it, you're gonna get hit in midair, which a poke like that won't really result in that much.
yeah, that's the only use for that backstep from it.
Yeah, that's why I do it all the time. I always backstep after I get through that move. The flea, like I said, jumping off flea, are 4, 6, A plus B, breaks in 6 as well. I'm pretty sure. And same thing, you hit them at least once with that. That itself is just good damage. Even his critical edge breaks. If they're
Yep.
flashing red, and I mean, almost in almost all cases, it's only unless they're immediately had just turned red. If you hit them with anything at first, and then you throw out your critical edge, and they're flashing red, it's almost guaranteed to break it. And it's the reason I mentioned that is because in some situations, if say I want to do a mix of words like, hey, I'm gonna use a move Yoshi's that's relatively safe, and it's considered a frame trap in the critical edge. So like a popular one back in the days when this game first came out was Yoshi's 2-2K. If you block it, it's neutral on block, and they're pretty spaced out from you. So if you critical edge it, they usually will try to attack you, and they usually get caught. But I'll blatantly throw out that move, for example. They'll block it, and they'll either guard or attack, depends. And if they get hit, they get hit. If they block it because they know better, they still get their guard crushed. And you can recover in time to 3B or do whatever you want still in time.
You know, I did want to ask, this is more of like a meta question, just because, but it's something that MKL just mentioned, kind of in passing, with the 9 B plus KK. Now, I know that MKL, you tend to shelve moves that don't work, but like just generally speaking, when you guys like enter into a match, do you kind of, well, it sounds like Ring Out, you're mostly going to throw the book at them, see what sticks and what doesn't. Like how do you guys approach that? Is that usually like your first couple rounds is like, okay, I'm going to see how much of his move list you do and don't know, and then go from there?
Totally. I'll use the first few rounds to feel them out to see what they punish my moves with, like my super punishable ones. Like if they're punishing my 6K with some like stupid BB or something, I know I can use 6K then.
Well, because I was curious, like especially from your perspective, I guess, because you kind of stick to, I guess, more consistent stuff. Because I mean, do you guys think just from all this situational stuff that Yoshi has, is he a character where it's going to be very, very rare that you run into somebody who knows everything about him?
Absolutely. Yeah. No one's gonna, well, I'm not gonna say no one, but very rarely will you find somebody who knows accurate punishment data on him.
Gotcha. So then let me ask this: what do you? Wouldn't you think that a good kind of approach to a match with him would be then to just kind of go through his move list and see what they do and don't, and then just kind of abuse that?
Well, it depends. If it's best of 3, I won't. Because the first match is pretty important, and first to 2. So I'll try to be safer. But if it's first to 3, I'll use like the first match almost to just gauge their punishment knowledge and see if they know how to get out of certain things.
Gotcha. Now, how do you take that Ring Out? Like, how do you approach that sort of metagame strategy?
Like I said before, I guess to me it's more about mindset. And I feel like with fighting games, I mean, I don't play many. I just play this one, and it's just what I personally believe. I'd like to believe, mindset says a lot in a fighting game, and it gives a mindset that you can actually put out. So, for example, what I mean by that is when you start a match, in most cases, like if I say I'm playing a person who I've never played before, I know nothing about them. My first round, in terms of, say it's a normal 3 out of 5, the way it is now, I'm gonna play it the way I casually play it, and I would throw out moves that most people would see or not see as often. So, for example, if I get a launcher, I'll show them that I can actually properly throw out A slide B plus K, or that I can properly throw out Magic Card Fist. And it gives them a mindset, okay, you have to be careful of these certain things. Otherwise, if you try to attack relentlessly, or you don't actually respect what he can actually do up close when he's in your face, then you're gonna get punished for it every time. So I like to give a mindset like that when I start a match, and as the matches continue, I change it up. And that's just how I play it. And I believe because Yoshimitsu is such a mix-up character, once you get in somebody's head and you completely change it and you keep making them guess, you'd be surprised how often most of Yoshimitsu's damage comes from them honestly just guessing wrong. It's not that you're doing anything fancy. You're just literally, you could throw out a simple attack and they'll get hit by it because they're just literally guessing or guarding the wrong way every time. Yeah.
Okay, so no, that makes sense. So it sounds like for you, well, I guess for MKL, it's more like like a checklist. I'm going to go through. I'm going to see what consistently works against you and what doesn't. But then for you, it's mostly okay. I have style A, B, C, D, and E. I'm going to do A first. Once you get used to that, I'm going to switch to B. Then maybe I'll do D. Then go back to A. Then do E.
That honestly sounds just about right.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, because that is two different, two very different ways of playing a character, and yeah, they're both good. Well, with the size of his move list, it's definitely
exactly.
Viable. Well, with that, I really don't have a whole lot. I mean, I'm sure that there's tons more that we could talk about.
Yeah, we could go on all day.
Yeah. I did want to ask real quick, just in passing, because we haven't really mentioned it at all, is his punishing game. Does he really have a whole lot that's good for, like, I know 3B is decently fast for, like, a launcher.
Yeah.
But aside from that, does he have? I mean, he doesn't have a pure stab, of course. But
nope.
Oh yeah, of course.
He's got 6K for 15 frames, which
6K, yes.
It's
6K
probably
is
his best.
6K will punish a lot of stuff on hit or on block, excuse me. And it's usually one of his really popular ones. I mean, pure stab, you can actually punish out of 6K. I believe you can actually 3B her from that, but I mean,
yeah, just standard.
In most situations, though, I mean, a 15 frame, kick like that, it comes out relatively quickly and does a decent amount of damage. So it's a pretty good punisher that a lot of people like to use.
He's just very basic in punishing. He has AA for 12, BB for 14, 6K is his big one for 15, and then he's got launcher at 17.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, in most cases that I'll use, for example, I'll use 6B a lot if they're up close, because a 13 frame punish, you'll see that a little bit more often than you think, and even hitting them with that, you're at +8. From that point on, if I know they're gonna guard, like I said, you can just grab them. That's one of his good ones I like to believe too, because of how much plus, frame wise you are after you hit it. It's not exactly a punisher, but it completely, puts the whole fight in your favor for that quick temporary moment. Another one, for example, would be his 2B. Even though you don't get damage for it, say, here's an example of that. Pyrrha's 3B. Why does everybody hate it? It's obnoxious as hell because for being what it is, it pushes you so far back that you can't really punish her for that move. Everybody hates it. I can't stand it. But
Yoshi has two things. That's it.
Yeah, Yoshimitsu has. I mean, that's the popular one is 2B. Yoshimitsu can throw out 2B every time she throws out that move, and you'll hit her with it guaranteed. Unless you get hit at tip range, you will not reach her. But if you keep hitting her with 2B after she throws it out, eventually they'll probably just stop randomly dishing it out. And it's like I said, it's not a good punisher,
Yeah, maybe
But
that's like a hand slap.
yeah, but I mean, still, damage is damage, and I mean, it adds up over time. If someone keeps throwing out 3B on me, or if someone keeps throwing out 3B on me on prepare, I'm gonna keep hitting them with it, and I mean, it's a good poke.
For her 3B, you can also just frame the 4-4B cancel B, but that's obnoxiously hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, those are like the pokes we spoke about earlier. They're all relatively quick. I believe 2B is 15 frames, so it comes out in 15. 6K is 15. His 6B is 13 frames. Even his 3K, that mid kick, that's just so like just gimmicky looking. It's great. Like that, I love that kick. It comes out pretty quickly as well. It comes out in 14, but it has a deceptive amount of range. And if you hit somebody with that, you're +4. So a lot of his punishment, a lot of his moves that do punish that like are quick, they don't do damage. They just give you frame advantage. But his big one, if you can throw it out and you're within range, obviously, like we mentioned, is his 6K. That's the big one. Aside from that, he really doesn't have many other punishers. That I could think of.
No, he maxes out at 3B pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured. I mean, just based on what I had seen and what I know, that it sounded like pretty simple.
Yeah, super simple punishment.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, man, I think without getting into the situational stuff, I think we pretty much covered.
Yeah, definitely
everything. So we'll wrap up the character discussion. I guess I'll just give each one of you like a little moment to kind of summarize. If there's anything you thought we missed, or like how exactly you see this character, kind of like a little cliff note, so to speak. So I'll start with you. Ring out like if there's anything important that people should keep in mind when they're learning this character or playing this character, that kind of stuff.
The biggest thing I have to say about this character is he's fun. I got into this. I got into the scene in this community, and I mean, playing this character and everything because I had fun playing him. Let's be honest. He does really silly stuff. He stands on a sword. He says the silliest things. He's got that obnoxious voice in Japanese, and then when we have this English one, it contradicts. The character himself, who he is what drew me to him. And what I always tell people as well is, yes, he can be, yes, he's high execution heavy, but he's by far one of the most fun and entertaining characters to use if you want to learn him. He does silly things, and it's a different fighting style, and that actually, drew me to him when I played him. So I mean, if there's anything I have to say about it, is that if you do want to pick up the character, it's not, his attacks in general, his simple moves, they're not hard to learn. His bread and butter combos, stuff like that, they work out pretty well. It's simple stuff. And I mean, when you learn his higher, execution based attacks and stuff like that, like that's something you'll learn with time. But you have to kind of have, at least what I believe, you kind of have to have, that kind of mindset where, hey, a lot of his stuff is silly, and you're not always going to be able to, completely, I guess you say, play him as a serious kind of, like character. What I mean by that is like, I mean, come on, like he falls down, he trips, he attacks sometimes, and then gets good damage, and then sometimes he doesn't. Like it's all gonna be really weird, and he was made that way. That's why he's cool. That's why he's fun. That's why I play him. From that point on, I mean, the reason I still play this competitively is because I have a passion for the game, and it all started with the character I picked up. You have to have fun with Yoshi when you learn him. Otherwise, it's just gonna be infuriating, and you don't want that.
Sounds like a lot of work.
It is, yeah, and it is a lot of work. But I mean, you have to have fun of it. I mean, his move list is silly. I mean, he has moves where he stabs himself and does nothing, and he just turns his sword. I mean, you have to have fun when you learn this character, and once you do that, you talk to this community. It's a great group of people. We're all here, they're gonna help you out. The Yoshi community is small. I mean, and it's dying down. Yeah. It's unfortunate. I mean, when I picked up this game, I learned it because of like two people, Lolo, which everybody knows from 4, mm-hmm. And then there's Redjin. And if there's any other advice I have to say, I mean, just watch videos. When I played in 4, and I was learning to play this game, like I got completely like kicked around like to the curb. And even though I kept getting beat around, I had fun of it just because he's such a silly character. But above all, what I realized was I'm like, I really want to invest time on this character. I spent a lot of time watching videos, literally just YouTube videos about Regin and Lolo, just combo videos, just random shenanigans, things you can do. And even though it was good, it's great ways to learn, what you can do with the character. By far, they nailed it. They made it entertaining. They made it fun. And shout outs to those two people. I mean, they did a great job, and that's the reason why to this day I still play this character. I never left them. Like the community's like it's just dying down for him because he's just it's a hit or miss kind of thing. But I feel like personally you have to have fun learning this guy when you use him if you want to main the character.
Gotcha. All right, MKL, advice, thoughts, last words on Yoshimitsu.
I'm just gonna cut through the bullshit and say if you want to play him, learn IMCF. Period. It's like playing Kazuya without electrics. You're not gonna play the whole character without this move, so quit pussyfooting around, go into training mode, press down plus A, and then slide to B. It'll change your whole perspective on him.
And like I said, try out the whole 8-2AB. I mean, it sounds really silly, but for some reason it helps out a lot. Give it a try.
Well, since we are kind of getting close to the 2-hour mark here, I'm actually going to skip the like a little rant section unless you guys really, really want to do it. And I'll just we'll just go to like the shout outs. Usually, just to kind of wrap up the episode, I do like to, give my guests kind of the final word, so to speak. So if there's I know Ring Out, you just kind of mentioned a few people, but if there's anybody else that you guys want to mention or kind of give shout outs to, or whatever you want to say as kind of your parting grace, we can do that. So this time I'll start with you, MKL, if you have any shout outs or anything non-Yoshi or non-Caliber related, by all means. yeah, we're done with him. We'll wait for the books.
Shout outs to Chicago for just being the best people to hang out with at every major. They pretty much make me feel like I need to go to a major to hang out with them. Shout outs to Lolo, who made me kind of bandwagon pick this character in 4. Shout outs to everybody in Lincoln, Nebraska who's helped me like level up in this game, or like just came along and actually made our tournaments and casuals, fun and social. I love our community. And shout outs to Great One, Partisan Heaton, all of them. That's all I got.
Mm-hmm. All right, Ring Out, your turn.
All right. Well, like I said before, big shout out to Lolo and Regin. I would have not learned and put as much, work and time, dedication to this character in general without them. They're a big portion of why I even got into this community. I'd also like to give out a shout out to Chicago. I was like that one person, I guess, that one in like a million people who just never actually tried to get involved in the community until I ran into them at MLG. And I gotta say, if there's anyone you have to meet, it's that group of people. They will completely make you feel welcome. You're such a good group that just they really shine a light about this community. They actually show this, they show you what this community is capable of being. Like Hawkeye, LP, like Human Typhoon, like Annex, like all you guys, like that group's awesome, and I love them for that. Same thing, people in New York as well. Shout outs to all those people, and mainly the East Coast and I guess central areas, but a lot of those people as well make this community great. And hanging out with them, meeting them, have pushed me to actually stay and stick around this community and hang out. Once again, shout out to the people who actually do provide, like the moderators, administrators, Jaxo as well. He's the one who actually made this website, obviously. And then I do have a special shout out. I would have never met this community, honestly, if it wasn't for a friend of mine who actually told me to, push out and meet you guys. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but I did make a promise that back then I would play competitively because he's the one who pushed and stressed out that this community was great. I would have never actually pushed out to be here without him. And that's the Colton. I miss you. And I mean, thanks for everything. I mean, this community to me is like family, and I nothing can replace that.
Man, you gotta end it on them feels.
Yeah. What was that? I feel depressed now.
It's funny because you mentioned that, and then I don't know how much you guys pay attention to the Tekken community, but we actually had a guy who's been part of the Tekken community for a long time. There's been other people that passed away as well, but this guy, he has a pregnant fiance, and he also has another kid, and they're about to lose their home, their condo. And the community pulled together and somehow helped him raise, God, how much was it?
$2,000 or something.
Yeah, like he needed $1,800,
Wow.
and he covered. I mean, he himself covered like eight or $900 or something like that, and then the community managed to get him the rest. And yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And not to shit on other communities, of course,
Yeah, of
but
course.
I mean, it's weird because like in the 3D community and whatnot, there's a lot of us are older. I mean, we've been around a while. We have our finances straightened out, and we're wives and kids and all this other stuff. So I don't know. It's a lot more connected, I guess, is the best way to put it. But
I mean,
not a bunch of online scrubs yelling at each other.
Exactly. I mean, this community is small. I mean, I don't want to say it's dying down because I feel like it happens and then it doesn't, and then everyone gathers again. And I mean, I think because we're a smaller group, I feel like like that's the reason why the community makes such an impact to me, because the people I meet, I see them every tournament I go to, at least most of the ones I've been around, and they've been there, they've been there in and out outside of the tournament scene. We hang out, we spend a lot of time together, and it's a great thing. That's the reason why I say it. Like this is like my second family. Like these people, this community means a lot to me. It does.
Well, and like we mentioned before we even started recording, we were like, oh, should we use our real names or our usernames? And I think that's a big difference. I think there's a lot of people or a lot of communities out there where that's all it is usernames. But everyone, like, it's so tight knit and small around here, and then Tekken is a similar as well, where everyone knows each other by first name. It's not
much.
Power Blaster 3000. No, it's Jim. He's over there.
Yeah.
Like, go talk to him. He'll hook you
Yeah.
up with a sandwich or something. It's like it's just that sort of thing. But anyway, yes, very very high note, very pleasant tones to end the podcast on. So I think that we have covered a ton for this character. I think we did everybody well this time. And then MKL, if you want to put up that video or send me that link, I'll put that up.
Yeah, I'll send you both of them.
Looking forward to your booklet ring out of all the situational stuff. Well, with that, thanks guys for coming on to the podcast, and of course, thank you everyone out there for listening. As normal, I have no idea who's going to be next. It's just kind of a roll of the dice, so to speak. So, but we'll keep going. I actually should be able to tell you how many we have left, and then people can check my numbers and make sure I'm not missing any characters.
Devil Jin's gonna be next. Don't lie.
Devil Jin. He's next. He's right around the corner. So I have 8 left. So we're not too far away. That man. By the end of the year, we should be done.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. If I continue this once a month thing, we'll get it figured out. But yeah, so still got some characters to go. So we're gonna keep trucking, and as usual, put your comments in the thread and whatnot, and I'll read them and maybe respond. It just kind of depends. But so with that, thank you again, guys, for coming on. Thanks everyone for listening, and we shall catch you next time.